Welcome to this retirement transition information session number 5 on the VRS Plan 1 and Plan 2. So before we get started, for those in council chambers, just a reminder, please no eating. They've asked us to remind you to refrain from food today. Okay. All right, so City Council, as you may know, we adopted a resolution to transition to VRS. And so the purpose of today's presentation is to inform you about Plan 1 and 2 if you have prior service in those plans. So existing employees will have 1 year from January 1st of this year through December 31st of 2024 to make a decision to stay in RRS or transition to VRS. This decision is permanent and it is also your individual choice. So we're encouraging all employees to look at your own unique circumstances, look at the different plan options, and discuss with the various retirement systems to understand what you would like to do. And it is, as I mentioned earlier, your choice, what you want to decide. So before we get started, I want to talk about a few key aspects of the transition to keep in mind. So please raise your hand if you have attended an information session prior to these VRS information sessions. Okay, great. And please raise your hand if you think you have or you have prior VRS service. All right, well, you're in the right place because Plan 1 and 2 is for general employees who have prior VRS service in those plans. So that's what we'll be touching on a little bit today. If you choose to transition to VRS, contributions to RS will cease once you begin with VRS. So I just want to go through a few reminders about some of the aspects of the transition, such as this. And your RRS account will remain as is in RRS and will continue to accrue interest and earnings over time. And if you are not vested in either the DB, defined benefit, or defined contribution DC plan with the city, you will still be able to vest in the account if you reach 5 years with the city after switching to VRS. If you have questions about that, you can see me afterwards and we can talk that through. RRS service is not able to be ported or which means transferred or purchased in VRS. There's one exception to that, but we will touch on that with those people. RS service is not compatible to be transferred because of the many plans that RS has. We have some people contributing 1% if you're a general employee, 1.5 if you're a sworn employee, different contribution levels in the enhanced plan. And so that was just not an option to be compatible to switch into VRS. However, VRS does have normal purchase of prior service rules. So if you have military time or federal service, things like that, that will be discussed today, what the VRS rules are for purchasing that type of service. Beginning the first pay period in 2024, employees will contribute 5% minimum to retirement, whether or not you have decided to transition to VRS or if you're choosing to remain in RRS. So you may recall this from the prior information sessions when we met with employees prior to adoption of the resolution. But a salary adjustment is going to be made to cover the increase in those employee contributions and mitigate the FICA, the Social Security tax impact. So you should have your transition brief, the handout, and for those who are virtual, there should be a link to that you can access. And the information about that contribution change is on page 11 of the transition brief pamphlet. And then finally, when you're ready to affirm your decision to stay in RRS or transition to VRS, you'll need to complete an election form. So we're in the process of developing that form. It will be available in the coming weeks, so please stay tuned for that, and we'll notify employees once it is available. It will need to be turned into HR or RRS, and more instructions will be provided. And once you turn in your form, your start in VRS would begin the first business day of the next month. and you'll begin earning service credit as soon as that occurs. So I just wanted to go over a few of these key aspects. We will get to questions at the end, so please keep your questions until after the presentation. We will have a Q&A. And I also wanted to just briefly introduce Kia Johnson and Deborah Simmons from the Richmond Retirement System, who are also here to help answer questions at the end. We have some ground rules for the Q&A section of this presentation, so we'll be going through that once we arrive at the Q&A. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to our VRS counselor this morning, Herman Jones, who will be doing this presentation on Plan 1 and 2. So thank you for attending. And as I mentioned, please save your questions till the end. We will get to you and any specific questions or concerns you have about the transition. Herman.
All right, thank you. I think this is my mouse here. Well, good morning, everyone. Happy to be here. Happy Friday. All right. I am, as she said, Herman Jones. I'm with the Virginia Retirement System. And I'm here just to kind of give you guys an overview of the VRS plan. It seems like a raise of hands. Saw quite a few folks that were already part of VRS. Nothing's really changed much, but we want to make sure that you kind of understand just the general information on it, and especially with the defined benefit programs, how they work, okay? So we're going to kind of step through this information. I think we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So hold on to your questions, but if you're like me, you tend to forget quick. I'm older, so I might forget in a moment, but write it down, okay? And we'll get back to you on those, okay? A couple of things we're going to go through this morning real quickly is talk about some of the retirement plans and how they work. There's two defined benefit programs, a Plan 1 and Plan 2, and we'll kind of talk about those because some of you probably or could have been previously participating in the Plan 1 program. So we want to make that transition for you pretty. If you remember some of the things from before, it really hasn't changed that much over the years at all. Some of the options that are available to you in retirement, some of the things that are going to be benefits to you in retirement. We're going to review some of that real quickly. And what you need to do to make the most of your benefits. And that comes into us talking about some of that purchase prior service that you would be eligible to purchase and things of that nature. Okay. And then we're going to go through some of the resources that you have as well. All right. Now, just to give you a little bit of the plan overview, some of you may remember when it comes to the plan overview, Plan 1, of course, this is the eligibility criteria for Plan 1. Now, if you remember, those of you that came on into the VRS program, Plan 1, 7/1 or July 1, 2010, and you reached a vesting period of 5 years. 5 years is a vesting period for most defined benefit programs. And you've reached that 5 years, then you fall under the provisions of what we call Plan 1, okay? The other criteria that you have is a Plan 2. Some of you may have joined or came into the VRS system early or came into the VRS system in July 2010, but you hadn't reached that 5 years by January 1, 2013, then you kind of default to, default might not be a bad word, maybe a bad word to use, but then you fall under the provisions of Plan 2, okay? So there's Plan 1 and Plan 2. These two programs are what we call defined benefit programs, okay? That means that it's calculated utilizing a formula. It's a guaranteed lifetime benefit for you, okay? So when you have those financial advisors that you talk to and they say, okay, do you have any guaranteed money coming? Yeah, this is going to be that guaranteed piece, okay? We'll talk about hybrid. That's going to be a totally separate presentation for some other folks in there too. But now, as I said before, defined benefit programs are typically, they pay a lifetime benefit, okay? So you're going to have a lifetime benefit under the VRS system, whether it's Plan 1 or Plan 2. The funds in that plan are managed by the investment team. Our investment team has done a great job. Right now, we're at a little over 101 billion with a B dollars that are in the fund, okay? We're the 14th largest fund here, okay, and 42nd largest fund in the world. So it's been managed really well, very solid, and basically this is where that defined benefit program is going to come. You may see here the defined contribution. We just note that because some of you may participate in a defined contribution plan, which is a separate program, and you assume the risk, okay? So that's just totally separate from your defined benefit, okay? Guaranteed amount. How the Plan 1 works, we talked about that before, Plan 1 and Plan 2. As they indicated earlier, 5% is going to be a contribution to that account for you in that account. So that 5% will grow for you at that point and continue to build on your defined benefit program. Okay. Now, when it comes to retirement, I don't want everybody rushing to their computer, but the retirement eligibility based on this criteria for Plan 1, if you're under Plan 1, what we consider to be retirement unreduced, which means it's kind of like Social Security. If you take it early, we're going to have a reduced factor. But if you want to get the unreduced, now this is for Plan 1 folks, and remember that was those folks that came on July 1, 2010, and were vested by 2013, January 1, 2013. You have to be 65 and have at least 5 years. Remember that 5 years was that vesting period, okay? That's where you reach the point where you get the funds that and make you eligible for the full retirement. The other criterion, if you fall into Plan 1, is if you're age 50 and you have 30 years, okay? So that's Plan 1, all right? If you want to take an unreduced retirement, you just have to be age 55 and have that 5 year, that magical 5 years of that vesting period, okay? Now, when we talk about reduced retirement, just think about Social Security in terms of how that works. If you take it early, there's a reduction to it. Same figure here. If you take a early retirement or a reduced retirement, we use a multiplier that reduces that, based on when you took it. Now, the good thing about that, I think, is that you could be, not of age per se, not, but we're going to look at your actual years of service as the basis for determining your benefit, okay? So some folks may be young, you might have started when you were 13 or 14, and so you got so many years, but so many years of service, but you really don't have that age. Then we're gonna look at that years of service because that's the most important component. Because if you serve your time, we want to give you a benefit for that in the calculation, okay? Now, for those of you that may fall under those provisions we talked about under Plan 2, this is what it would look like to get an unreduced retirement. Unreduced retirement under Plan 2 means that your age in service equals 90. For those of you 50 years old, you got 40 years of service. Ooh, you got it in there. So that would be a criteria of 60 and 30 years of service there. Or you can also reach that normal Social Security retirement age and have that 5 years vested of service, all right? Social Security, whatever you're based on your date of birth, that's gonna kind of determine when your normal Social Security retirement age is, okay? For most of us here, it's probably 66 to 67, and who knows where it's gonna move to in the next coming months. We don't know. You also have that same option of a reduced retirement under Plan 2 as well, but you have to be age 60 and have 5 years, okay? So this is eligibility for retirement, transitioning over to the VRS system. If you were existing or had some existing time under VRS, of course, we're going to calculate all that time together and reach these eligibility levels for you, okay? Now, the big question that you're going to have when it comes time to get ready to, I say pull the trigger a lot of times, but hit the apply button, the retirement button, is how do I want to take my money? Part of this overview is just to tell you, just to kind of get you thinking in terms of what the different payout options are when you're ready to retire, okay? Because once you make that decision on retiring, the payout option you choose stays with you. You can't change it. There's only one payout option that you're able to change once you've made that decision. And I'll go through that as we step through. There's about 4 of them real quickly, and we'll kind of step through those real quickly. Oops. So the basic benefit is the first one. If you decide you want to take a basic benefit, that basic benefit really means you're going to get the highest possible amount paid to you. Okay. Now, basic benefit pays you and only you. Okay. Something happens to you, God forbid something happens, then at that point the benefit will stop. Okay. Now, this is where it's important to make sure that you've got your beneficiary information up to date. Okay. So you want to make sure that that's up to date. Make sure that if something happens to you and there's still funds that are in your member contribution account, the money and then the account you've been contributing to, those funds have to go to your beneficiary. Okay. So you want to make sure that that's up to date. Some people filled that information out years ago, and maybe mom's not with us anymore, or the husband or wife's not with us anymore, but we got to pay whoever's on that form. Okay. So you want to make sure that that's up to date. Make sure that you got that. You can do that online. So I encourage everyone, again, you'll probably hear me say this over and over again. There's a website that we have called My VRS. And if you had it before, then you're probably locked out at this point. But go back in, give us a call. We'll be glad to get you reset, okay, to get you in the system, all right? The second option that you have when you get ready to retire is the survivor option. With our defined benefit program, you have the opportunity to leave anywhere from 10% up to 100% of your benefit to a survivor, okay? So typically most folks, you can look at your numbers. This is where you have an opportunity to go into your MyVRS, play with the numbers, see how it impacts your benefit based on the percentage that you have, and see exactly, how much do I want to leave that individual? Or if not, you can just basically do the basic benefit program. Now, remember, this is the only one that you can change once you've made that decision, okay? So let's just say, for instance, something happens to your survivor, then your survivor predeceases you, then you can change to either another survivor, or you can bounce up to the basic benefit and the higher payout option, okay? One thing we just need from that survivor, if they decide that, let's just say the survivor decides not to take the benefit, we basically just need a letter from them stating that they don't want to receive the benefit, okay? And a psychological evaluation. All right, so this is the one that you can bounce back to, all right? So survivor option, take a look at it, calculate it, work with it, and see if it works for you. Now, this is the plop, okay? It's a partial lump sum option payment, okay? This is the one that you can't kind of compare it to any of some of the other different programs. But basically, when we look at what your unreduced retirement, in order to plop, which is, like I said, the partial lump sum option payment, in order to do this, you have to reach your unreduced retirement level, okay? So if you're plan one, you have to reach that 50 and 30, and plan two, your age in service has to equal 90. Once you reach that point, or, like I was saying before, if you're age 60 and you got 5 years, you're vested, you can still reach that point. Then if you work 1, 2, or 3 years beyond that unreduced retirement level, then you have the option to do a partial lump sum option payment, okay? Your choice is you can say, I want to do a plop for 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years. Now, it's not a bonus. Some folks have said, okay, well, are you bonusing me some additional money for that? I wish, yeah. But the key to it is that we're going to pay you 1 full year, or 2 years, or 3 years of your annualized benefit, okay? So if you're getting $2,000 a month, you say you want to plop 1 year, we'll give you lump sum payment of $24,000 as a plop, okay? Now, you still receive your monthly benefit, okay? It's reduced somewhat because you're doing that plop, but you do have that option. Some folks like to have that little extra, especially if you're a basic benefit person. That way you've got some extra funds that are set aside, for emergencies or something of that nature. Now, of course, if we pay it directly to you, Uncle Sam wants 20% of that, okay? And the state, they want 4, okay? Now, a lot of times, if you've got some supplemental programs that you're participating in, a defined contribution plan, you can take that plop, roll it into that, and we'll roll or transfer 100% of that into that. Or if you're working with an institution that you have an IRA with, we can roll 100% of that into that. That way, when you get ready to use it, this money hasn't been taxed before, but you only pay taxes on what you basically pull out, all right? Okay, so that's the plop, okay? The advanced pension option, it gets a little complicated. So if this is something you want to get a little bit more information about, let us know. We'll be more than happy to kind of walk you through it. But it used to be what we call kind of the leveler, okay? And basically the way it works is this. It coordinates with Social Security. And not coordinates in terms of calculation, but it coordinates in terms of how that benefit is paid. So what we would need is a statement from Social Security that says, hey, at age 62, when you decide that you want to take Social Security benefit, you're going to receive $2,000, okay? And let's just say from your VRS benefit, for simple math, you're getting $1,000, okay? And you're retiring early, but you've got the years there, all right? So what we would do is basically advance you that amount that you're getting from Social Security up until age 62 when you start to take it, okay? Now, that does impact your benefit, but it does give you a level payment up until the time that you start to take your Social Security, okay? So for some folks who are trying to get to, like myself, Medicare age, then this is a way to kind of bridge the gap and keep you some consistent money coming to you along the way, okay? All right. So those are the 4 payout options that you have to choose with that come with the VRS program. That's either Plan 1 or Plan 2, whichever you choose or whichever you're eligible for. Now, this is our website that you'll go to. This is the one that will probably show that you're either locked out or you're not able. But this is where you want to create or recreate your basic your MyVRS account. Okay, you go into it. You have a couple of security questions. They'll ask you a few questions with that. Get you created. Get your login created. Once you get into that, that's where all your information is going to be housed, okay? And at the time, once you get into this program, everything you do is going to be inside MyVRS. It's just a general website. It's going to allow you to go in. It's going to allow you to go into and use the calculator, which is a benefit calculator. And that way, at least you'll have the opportunity to go into that and put in the date that you're looking to retire. And it will give you the gross benefit amount, which is a good way to know exactly what you're working towards, okay? Now, I want to share with you too, for those of you that like to do math, when we talk about Plan 1, then Plan 1, of course, when we calculate your benefit on a defined benefit program, we're going to look at the highest 36 months of your salary, okay? So that's the way that Plan 1 is calculated, right? It doesn't matter where it falls in your record, okay? Because some folks will be working at one position and then they'll go, okay, those first 10 years were rough. I'm gonna go do something totally different. But we're gonna look at your record all the way back and make sure that we get the highest 3 years of your salary, okay? And that's what we call your average final compensation, okay? We have a multiplier that we use to calculate that with. It's 1.7. And then we multiply that by your number of creditable service years, okay? That gives us an annualized benefit, an annualized amount. And if you want to divide that by 12, that gives you the monthly amount, okay? Same thing happens, but a little different when we talk about Plan 2. Plan 2, we do the exact same thing. We look at the highest 5 years this time, okay? So you got 5 years that we're looking at the average of for Plan 2 folks, if you fall under that. And then we use the multiplier and then the number of years of service, okay? So that's just a little bit more than probably you want to do. I'm not good at this. I'm a walker talker, I guess. So one of the things that we want to look at too is that is an option for you to utilize. Okay. So just in case those of you that prefer to do a little calculation by hand, that'll give you something to work with. Okay. All right. Now, we always like to encourage folks to utilize our financial wellness. Okay. This is a website that's not just about VRS. It's about anything financial that you wanted to do. Okay. It's got a financial planning tool. It's got a behavioral finance tool that you can go into and find out exactly what kind of saver you are, what kind of spender you are as well. It also will help you guide you through some of the budgeting things. If you plan on purchasing a car, or if you plan on purchasing a home, things like that. It's everything financial that's in there. Okay. It really helps you sound like a genius when you go talk to your financial advisors, because of course they always throw terms out at you that you can't seem to understand, but that's okay. This will help you. You'll sound like you're a financial advisor yourself. All right. There's a tool in there that talks about banking and as well as budgeting. So it also will ask you a couple of little questions, okay? Those questions, it will help determine some little mini courses that might be advantageous for you to help you have a better understanding of finance and things of that nature, all right? So that's what our financial wellness tool is for. This is the one feature, the My VRS. This is what it will look like once you log in, okay? When you log into My VRS, this is going to house all your information, okay? It's going to tell you the balance in your account. It's going to tell you your coverages, your accumulations, and this is also where you're going to go whenever you want to try to calculate your benefit based on the date that you want to retire. It's a benefit estimator, okay? Just do like I do. I check it every day. And then if it doesn't look good, I put my clothes on, go to work. This year. So that's what the calculator is in there for. It houses your life insurance. It houses all your information that's covered there. As well as this is where you will go when you get ready to retire. The application is an online tool. At the bottom, it says apply now. And the paperwork is in there, and it allows you to go in and fill out your information and hit submit. So don't everybody run out and do that right now. So just hit submit on that, okay? This is the beneficiary designation. You can change this as often as you like. This will update automatically in 24 hours, okay? So if you want to go in there and change it, you can do like I do. Every Christmas, I don't get a gift, I change it. So that's the way that works. All right, now, this is the part that we talk about enhancing your benefit. The biggest component to the defined benefit programs is this. It is service, okay? The more service you're able to add to the program, add to your plan, the better your calculation's going to be. So if some of you had some prior service, part-time, you work part-time with another agency or another VRS participating employer, then you have the eligibility to buy that time and have it added to your record, okay? In many cases, what we're able to do for part-time or what we call non-covered service, it has to be at least no more than 48 months, okay? That's the max that you can buy, okay? 4 years, all right? So you can have that added to your record. There's also federal. Some folks have worked for federal agencies, and those federal agencies, of course, will, if they can certify that time that you had with them, then you can have that added to your record, or you can purchase that, okay? Yeah, federal service, you can, before that, the non-covered service, which is part-time, if you had part-time service, 48 months of that as well. Military service, you're eligible. If those of you that may have been in the military, the only thing we need for that is your DD 214. And if you can show us, that period of time when you were with military, you can buy that time back and have it added to your record. Okay. When you have that added to your record, of course, you can either pay for it payroll systematically. Okay. Your human resource department will kind of work with you to either do that pre-tax or after tax, however you want to do it, or you can pay it lump sum, just stroke a check to VRS and we'll get that purchase for you. Okay. As I said, that's a way of kind of enhancing your benefit and adding to your record if you choose to do that. Okay. You have life insurance associated with your program. It's usually right now, if you participate with the VRS, it's 2 times your salary. Okay, so that life insurance, you don't pay any premium for it. Okay, it's just part of your benefit. All right, it does change in retirement. It does reduce in retirement, but you're not paying any premium. Your employer pays a premium for that. But initially, it's 2 times your salary, and it stays that way throughout your benefit. And as your salary changes, it changes as well. Okay. This is our website, my VRS website. Now, this is the website you're going to go to if you want to listen to maybe some additional presentations. Some of our webinars are there. You can also set up a time to meet with us individually in person or virtually. If you choose to meet with us virtually, you can do that as well. You can set that up. My team is the education and counseling team. Okay, and our team is always willing to meet with folks individually because everybody's situation is totally different. And so we'd like to maybe, talk with you about your individual situation. If you have questions, there's a lot of information here, wealth of information, and you probably see us out and about at different locations. You'll also be able to see where we are in terms of maybe scheduled presentations. And so you'll have an opportunity to see some of those and add some additional information to. And this is that tool, or this is our website that you're going to go to. It has our webinars in there that you can listen to at your leisure and also set your appointments, okay? Some of the featured presentations are these, okay? If you decide to come over into the VRS system, this is a way that you can get a little bit additional knowledge on the different programs we have. For most folks, Are You on Track? We typically like folks to listen to that Are You on Track if you're about 5 or 6 years from retirement, because it kind of gives you a general idea of exactly what the next steps are. And it also, I guess, it's good it's called Are You on Track because it lets you know where you are. And your next steps goes into even more detail when you're about 2 years out or so, getting you prepared to get your documents together, okay? Good thing is that it's online now, and we don't have to have the paper forms to have you submit those forms. We used to have to get your birth certificate and a DNA sample and all that kind of good stuff. So we don't do that anymore. Okay. This is how you contact us. If you need to contact us or have questions about the program as you're going forward, of course, that 800 number is our customer service folks. Mission Square is a defined contribution program. I've got those guys listed up there as well. And if you decide to write us a letter and want correspondence back and forth, you can utilize the VRS at varetire.org. Okay, that will list to us and let us know exactly. Okay, we're open right now 8:30 to 4 downtown. Well, we are downtown, but on Main Street. Okay, we're in that Bank of America building still. We are looking to move. I believe they've just let us know, but we still will have access during those hours. Right now, we're scheduling in person on Tuesdays and Wednesdays, but the virtuals are Monday through Friday. You can always talk with us at your leisure whenever you're ready, okay? Whenever you're prepared, at your leisure at home. This is just going to show you real quickly our video that shows you how to go to make the appointments, and you'll just go to our education and counseling piece, okay? And I guess we will do some of the questions and answer for those of you that have questions about the program, anything particular? Okay, let me, oh. Did that?
All right, so we're going to turn it over to the Q&A portion, and I want to just lay some ground rules out first because we have the in-person audience and the virtual audience today. So we do ask that you put your entire question up front and refrain from follow-up questions. So try to ask the entire question in the beginning so we can move expediently through the questions. Please keep your question general if possible instead of to your specific situation. We will have time to address those specific circumstances separate from the presentation. And we're going to alternate between 3 questions in person and 3 questions in the virtual audience. So Lauren will help to facilitate that. But we do ask that you line up at the podium so that folks in the virtual audience can hear your question. So we'll start with the in-person audience. So please, if you have a question, come to the mic and we'll go ahead and get those going. Thank you.
Hello. So I had 3 questions. You had alluded, I think, earlier to being able to purchase prior years of service over time on some kind of a plan that is set up with the Human Resources Department. What is the length of that time at which you would be able to do that? Is that indefinite up until retirement, or do you need to purchase prior years of service within a year, 2 years, 3 years of that plan, that payment plan?
Okay, good question. Usually for purchasing prior service, you can do it up until you can't purchase it in retirement. Okay, so you want to do it at least a year or 2 prior to you getting ready to retire. The one thing that I would say is that if you're setting up, there is a way to purchase prior service by setting up payroll deductions. Okay, our in most cases, what you would need to do once you work with your payroll or human resource department is kind of look and see how you want to make that purchase. Okay. It's a contract of 12 months. So let's just say you want to do 10 months of, out of the 48, the first 12 months. So each 12-month period, you'll be setting up a contract. Okay. So they'll be making deductions. At the end of that period, what will happen is you'll just say, okay, I want to get another 10 months. All right. So I would say if you know you're going to do 48, you want to do it a couple of years prior so that everything's in there close to the time that you're ready to retire. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Flexible. The next question is for the calculation of benefit, is it 3 consecutive years of highest pay or 3 of the highest paid years?
It's 36 and if you're plan 2, it's 60. So we're looking at consecutive years of pay.
Okay. All right. I think that answers everything. Thank you very much.
Okay. Good. Thank you for your questions. Good morning, sir.
My question is, will people who think they in Plan 1 or Plan 2, will we receive anything in writing letting us know which plan we are actually in?
Yeah. And also, I encourage you to take a look at, and once you register into the My VRS, it automatically populates with hello, your name, you're in Plan 1, Plan 2, or whatever plan you're in. And it also gives you some really good information about maybe your projected estimated payout. So you would get, once you get into
Right
that.
now, it shows local plan for the simple reason that Richmond does the health through there. So I'm just saying in general, for people who may think they're in Plan 1 or Plan 2, is it a way to populate those individuals and send out information
Yeah.
which plan they're in?
Yes, good question. So VRS is working on a solution for that. That is a indicator that is unique to Richmond because we are local to VRS. So for our group life insurance, you may be showing up as local plan. That is not an indicator of your prior plan. We are getting a list from VRS of anybody who did have prior service and what plan they're in. But you can also call the customer service center to find out what plan you were in, and they will tell you the status of your account. So we encourage you to do that. If you're not sure what plan you were in, don't go by the local plan.
No, will there be correspondence to those people? Like something in writing saying plan one, your plan two, just as a confirmation, because people have to make a decision, and they make a decision thinking they're plan one or two. And maybe they're not, they're hybrid. And now they don't want to do it anymore, but it's too late. They've already committed. So will they send something in advance saying your plan one, your plan two, your hybrid, et cetera?
Great question. So we are getting that file from VRS as confirmation. So that will be shared between VRS and the city as the record of prior plan. We can confirm that with you, and if it's necessary in writing, we can talk to VRS about that.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I have seen the conversion. We just haven't got it out to you yet. Okay. Yes.
Morning. Wanted to find out, and if I understood her right, if you already in the plan, I'm a plan one person,
Okay.
right? So is what I have in the city's plan transferable to VRS or not?
Your VR, are we transferring on your VRS program? You have plan one.
So are you in the defined contribution plan with the city right now?
I am in the one that the city contributes to solely, okay?
So again, RRS time and service is not portable to VRS. It cannot be transferred over unless there's an exception for non-vested, less than 5 years defined benefit plan members. If you are a general employee, most likely you are in the defined contribution plan if you were hired after July 1st, 2006. In that case, so with respect to your DC plan, if what I just said applies to you, your RRS account will stay as is. It will stay with the city, and it will become available to you when you separate from city service. If you are not vested yet, it will become available when you reach 5 years with the city, whether or not you transition to VRS.
Okay, so then that brings a second question up. I'm vested with the city, okay? I've been vested with VRS, as well. And what you're telling me then, if I elect to go to VRS, everything from January 1 forward would go to VRS, and everything that's left in the city's plan would be left there until I decide to take it. Is that correct?
Yes, this is a great question. So if you did nothing right now, when you filed to retire, you'll get two benefits because you're vested in VRS. So you'll get your VRS benefit and you'll get your RS benefit.
Well,
If you
with RS, I'm in the plan that basically I get a lump sum, so I don't get a retirement, so to speak.
Right, but you would receive that RRS, if we call it your account,
Okay.
and you would receive your VRS benefit because you're vested in both. If you switch back over to VRS, you'll begin earning service where you left off, just as you mentioned, and that RS account will stay as is. And same as I said before, when you retire, you'll receive the account from RS and the VRS benefit with the additional time that you've been putting into VRS since you switched
Okay.
over. Okay.
Last question. I'm currently withdrawing from VRS because I'm eligible. So if I elect to go with VRS from the city, will that stop everything that I have currently? And then there's an increase to my monthly whenever I go back to withdrawing VRS.
Yes, that's a good question. Yes. To answer your question, that benefit with VRS would stop and you'd start to accumulate because we got to recalculate your benefit because it's going to give you more time. So it's going to give you a better benefit, and it's going to be like we'll call it a second retirement. Just like when someone decides to retire and then come back to work in a VRS system.
Okay.
So we'd recalculate it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Good question.
3 questions from the virtual audience.
Nanditha, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good morning. I have like 10 plus years with VRS, and I am vested with the city with like 5.5 years now. So what I'm assuming from what you said a little earlier is um my years with the city would stay here, and I would start accumulating from January 1st in VRS. It
That's
doesn't
good.
it doesn't combine.
No, it doesn't combine.
Okay. And what about my deferred contribution? That stays as is too with mission.
Oh, your defined contribution plan with
Yes.
RRS.
Yes.
That will, right. So that'll just stay. If you switch over to VRS, that'll just stay as is and
Okay.
will become available to you when you separate from city service.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Freeze. Yes, we've been using the term freeze, so I believe this may also be in the pamphlet. And by freeze, what we mean is that it will just stay as is, right? As I've said as well. If you are not vested, so for example, I'm not vested. I have a little over a year with the city. If I work 4 more years, even if I transition to VRS next year, the idea is I would have access to whatever that year of my DC account is when I leave city service. Okay, next question.
Evan, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question. Evan, can you try to unmute yourself and ask your question? All right, I'm going to move on to number 2. We'll try again in a second, Evan. Grace, you can go and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, thank you. I just want to verify that I am not quite 5 years with VRS, but my time will still count. So I'll have, a few months to get to the 5-year vesting in VRS. So, but none of my city time will transfer, right?
That's correct. You just will continue to accumulate VRS time.
So then my benefit will be based on what? 5 years with VRS?
If you retire under the VRS program, we'll base your benefit on the VRS, VRS years of service.
So I won't be qualified for any benefit because I'd have to work another 25 years?
Well, if you're going to retire, now the vesting part just means that you have the vesting period where the contributions are there that you will receive. But 5 years is just that vesting to the benefit. Now, I don't know, age and service is what's going to be the component there. If you've reached that eligibility level that I was talking about before, then you will be eligible for full retirement at that, depending on what plan you're in. Okay.
So I think I'm in plan 2.
Okay. So under Plan 2 provisions, that would mean that your age in service has to equal 90 for unreduced.
Service
Or-
and VRS.
Right. Because the VRS service and the RRS service doesn't combine.
Right. So that means I'd have to work for 25 years.
To get a full retirement, yes, ma'am.
So if I retire at 65 or 70,
And you have 5 years, you get a full benefit.
at 70.
Well, if you got 5 years and you're in Plan 2, if you're normal Social Security retirement age, well, whatever that is for you, and you have 5 years, you can get a full retirement. Unreduced.
I see. Based
Mhm.
on the 3 highest salary years.
If you're plan one, we'll look at 36 months. If you're plan two, we're going to look at 60 months, 5 years.
5 years. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we're trying to adjust the volume in chambers. Your questions, virtual audience, are great. They are a little bit loud. So thank you. Okay.
All right, I'm going to go back and try. Evan, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? All right, I'm going to move on to the next person. Meldon Jenkins, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello. Sorry, I joined late. I was calling VRS and I found out I'm in Plan 1. So should I just go ahead and ask my question or just wait till I can go to the presentation from the beginning? Maybe I'll have a better understanding because right now I'm still totally confused.
You can go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, so I'm in Plan 1. I've been working for the city continuously for about 10 years, a little over 10 years. And I'm wondering, am I supposed to do something or can I just not do anything? That's my first question. And then if I have to make some sort of choice, then how, I'm still confused about how I would make that choice.
Understood. So every employee will need to make a decision. You have until December 31st of 2024 to make your decision to stay in the Richmond retirement system or transition to the Virginia retirement system. We encourage all employees to look at both options, and if you need to talk with the respective retirement systems to better understand your situation to make your decision, you can absolutely do that. Richmond Retirement System can be reached retirement@rva.gov. So that is their email address if you want to, discuss your specific account with RRS. If you need more information from VRS, as Herman mentioned, we are going to have the ability to have you talk with somebody from VRS about your account. But yes, we will have a form available. It is coming soon, so stay tuned to let employees elect whether they're going to remain in RRS or transition to VRS. If you aren't sure that you want to make any change to anything, you can stay where you are in RRS. That is an option. So, but we do encourage you to explore the options and then make your decision accordingly. Okay, so I think that's 3 questions from the virtual audience. And we do have a slide that will go up on the screen with some contact information, including our city transition website that has contact information as well. It's where the forms will be posted once they are available, and instructions about how to submit them, as well as FAQ. So please take a look at this and use it as you wish. All right, so we'll take some more questions from the in-person audience. If you have any, come on up to the podium.
Gotcha.
Okay. Good morning again. I just want to make sure that I fully understand. You said 4 years, 48 months. If it's more time than that in there, are you going to lose those years?
In terms of, you talking about purchasing
Yes.
service? There's certain criteria now. Let's just say you had federal service. Each one of those are 48 months that you can buy. So federal service, you can do 48. If you had part-time service, you can do another 48, but it's the categories. If you had workman's compensation time that you were off, okay, and you want to buy that time back. I know maternity leave or educational leave. Those are different criteria, different types of services that you can purchase. But if you have, maybe 10 years of military, we can only do 48 months of that.
So you can only buy it, but so you will lose time.
Well, yeah, you won't be able to purchase that time.
Will it remain or will it
Well, It's-
remain like if you had 10 years,
uh-huh,
you can purchase 4,
right.
the remaining 6, will it stay in the existing account?
Well, it doesn't come over because you're buying this time to add it to your record.
Right.
You're only able to add 48 months.
Okay.
So the other, it would, stay with the military.
Okay.
You're only getting the 48. Yeah. Yes, sir. Good question.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Now y'all have thrown me off with this whole thing about my city years not counting. So my question then is if it's both has to do with the amount of salary. So it's two questions, but I can ask it as one. So if when I get ready to retire, then you'll be looking at 3 years of service when I was at the state, or does this service, I guess the service salary doesn't count except for when I make the transition.
Right. So if you're in the VRS plan, okay, or you can't come over to the VRS plan, and you're in plan 1, then we're going to look at the highest 36 consecutive months and use that. Okay.
In which,
Well, depending on your salary. Okay.
okay,
So if you come over,
mhm,
then your salary is going to now be
what it
based
is.
on what it is now.
So you'd be looking at the last 3 years that I worked.
Yeah.
So at the
Last-
city.
Yeah. I don't want to say last 3 years because
Or whatever
Yeah, we're
I
able
got you.
to-
I know, I understand
yeah.
it.
uh-huh.
So it would be based on, okay, because that matters. That matters significantly.
I understand that. Yeah.
Okay, so the other question is if I purchase service, because I have 10 years that I took out of VRS,
Mhm.
long time ago. If I purchase that, I'm purchasing it at what amount? At my current salary?
Now, if you got refunded service,
Mhm.
okay, if they gave you a check for that time, that's a little different. You can purchase as much of that as you want. You're not
Okay.
restricted to 48 months. You can
Okay.
buy the whole 10 years, but you got to remember, on top of that, the amount that they gave you, you have to add the interest on top of
Oh.
that.
But at what salary? I mean, because isn't it based on,
Well, refunded service is different.
so you're just buying
You're buying
the
that service.
the
back.
amount, okay.
A refunded service is at about 6% on top of that.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm still a little bit confused.
Sure.
Um, I'm I, I'm vested in VRS. I'm not sure. I think it's a plan 2.
Okay.
And I know when I was working in the state, they said we could buy back, federal government or state. I'm vested in another state, DOT.
Okay.
Can I buy that time back?
Not if you're vested in another state.
Just,
If you're receiving a retirement or vested in another state.
I mean, I'm vested, but I just left everything there. So all I get is a statement every month. Can I roll it into VRS? No.
In most cases, they don't allow you to roll that type of a program into our VRS because if you're coming into a defined benefit program that we have, we don't accept rollovers into a defined benefit program. Now you may be able to roll it into a defined contribution or something of that nature, but not the defined.
I know when I was in VRS, they said we could buy back our time, whatever time, as long as we're vested. That's what Vito told us then.
Mhm.
According to the plan that I had,
Yeah.
it was always like, as long as you're vested, you can buy your time back, if it's federal government or any state agency.
From the previous institute or
Yeah, the previous
Yeah.
VRS employer, participants.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was what they told me with the VRS plan that I had.
Uh-huh.
And so I guess I'm like, okay, now that if I need to switch, can I buy back I don't know. That's one question. 2, and the other question is, I'm not vested here in the city. I'm
Okay.
just maybe 2 years or thereabout.
Huh.
What is going to happen to the little time that I have with the city? Plus, I do the missions. I put a lot into the 457.
Right.
The return, what's going to happen to that? Can I roll? Am I just going to leave that money that I contribute every 2 weeks into?
Stays into RRS and continues to grow. I mean, if you've got it invested, it's going to have a return in the RRS system. That money is going to continue to stay there and be housed for you and grow. Now, when you
Do I stop once I change? Because it's a lot of money I'm putting in every 2 weeks.
yeah.
Right. So as we talked about that word freeze, right?
Okay.
So 2 years with the city, if you switch on January 1st, that 2 years is just going to stay where it is. It'll earn interest, have earnings over time in the investments. But you're not going to be contributing to it anymore. It's just going to stay where it is
It's just good.
so if you then work 3 more years, even if you transition January 1st and you work 3 more years, that will mean you're kind of vested in that frozen pot and you'll get access to it when you leave city service. So it's just going to stay there.
It's just going to stay there. So I'm just want to make sure I'm understanding. Say tomorrow I switch to VRS. Yeah. Whatever it is I have with IRS stays there. My contribution stops with IRS and I can switch that to VRS and it continues.
Yes. So anyone at any given time is only contributing to one retirement system. Okay. So this is what the choice is about. You're either staying in RRS and you continue to contribute there, and the city does as well, or you move over to VRS and the contribution starts there. But it's a switch. It's an on off. So you're not going to be doing both at once.
Question that I remember. VRS, I think it's 401, it's 401k or 401b, whereby for every amount, when I was in VRS, for every amount you do, the employer pays double. Is that going to be the case when we switch to VRS? No.
Well, when you talk about a defined benefit program, if you come into that program, that contribution, I mean, your 5% is going into that account. It's different. That's why it's a formula, it's a pension, it's a guaranteed. Now, what you may be talking about is like your defined, what we call defined contributions or supplemental retirement accounts, where they do matching.
401k or 401b.
Usually in most cases, it's going to be a
457.
403B or 457.
Okay.
The follow-up on that is that the 457 with the city will stay as is. You can actually still, because it's a supplemental plan and it's a 457 deferred comp, you can still keep it going. Right. So, okay, moving to the next question.
Thank you. What is the understanding? You can't talk about any single person's specific situation. That's why you guys have resources there so everybody can dive in for themselves. But what is the general calculation for purchasing years of service for the cost?
Well, if you're looking at, we're going to look at your salary currently, because of course, if we buy it, we've got to project what we're going to pay you at retirement. But it's an actuarial calculation that these guys give us, and they basically look at, from a general standpoint, depending on the number of years that you purchase and then what your salary is currently, then that's going to determine kind of what that rate is for purchasing that 1 month. They'll give you a 1 month rate and then say, for each month, you want to buy it this way, you want to do this. It's hard to give a general calculation because what we have to do is get the actuarial guys to go in and tell us, based on your age, which we use 86, okay, how much of it's going to, how are we going to project that so that we can pay him a lifetime benefit based on his lifetime. So your salary is going to be the impact of the cost.
That's going to be the biggest variable or factor.
That's your variable factor, right?
Yeah, but because you're equating age in with it as well, depending on when I purchase years of service, could change that actuary, could change the percentage overall of the cost.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. Because the closer you get to, that age, as you get older, then it could have some impact on that cost of it.
Thank you.
Buy it young. Okay.
Virtual audience.
Evan, are you able to unmute yourself and ask your question? Meg Raymond, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So we got you.
Okay, I think I understand, but I just want to make sure that I do understand. I worked for many years at a VRS institution, and I am getting a pension from VRS. So now that I'm working for the city of Richmond, I'm assuming that what I want to do is stay in Richmond, because if I change to VRS, my pension stops until I retire again, correct?
You're correct that your pension would stop if you transitioned, and then you would begin reaccruing VRS service credit. But as far as your decision and what would be best, we cannot advise you as to whether you should do that or not. It's completely up to you. But we can give you, the aspects of what would happen in that case.
Okay, thank you.
Evan, we're going to try one more time. Are you able to unmute yourself and ask your question? All right, we do have a question from somebody who is able to type it in the chat. They're having some technical difficulties. So their question is, I joined VRS in 2002 and became vested in 2007 with the state. Will I be in Plan 1 or Plan 2?
I hope I'm there. Yeah, you can type that, I guess, type that back. They would be, if they vested by 2007, they would be in Plan 1. And they came on in 2002. Any questions?
Okay, no more questions from the virtual audience. So does anybody in the in-person audience have more questions? Come on up to the podium and ask.
Average either 3 or 5 of your highest salary. Is that a gross salary, or is that reduced by some pre-tax deductions?
No, it's your base salary. Yeah, no bonuses, nothing additional, just what your base salary is, the highest amount. Yeah.
Okay, so if you're paying health insurance or other pre-tax, that's included in your base salary?
Right. Whatever your base is, we use your base salary. Yeah, based on what they give us. You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. How you doing?
Good morning.
Right. My question is getting a little bit as we go along. The person that just called, they said that they started in 2006. I worked for the state in 2010, so I know now that I'm in 2. My question is, I only have 3 years of state time.
Okay.
And I wanted to know if I could buy 2 because you need 5 to be vested. Is that correct?
To be vested, you need 5. Now, if you come over to VRS, you start to accumulate VRS time, and you don't have to buy additional time, depending on whether you want to keep working or not.
Yeah.
But you'd have to find where you've had some time that you have purchasable, like part-time or something of that nature, in order to add that time into your record.
Okay.
Yeah. But if you come to VRS, then that 3 years gets added, and you just keep working under the VRS Plan 2 program.
Okay, so that 3 that I have in the kitty box
Gets added to your time.
because I'm gonna jump back into VRS.
Yes, sir.
Those 2 I can buy.
Well, you don't have to buy the 2. You'll just keep working in Richmond. Now you're under VRS 2, so you could get the 2 years by just working 2 years as opposed to buying it. And that gets you vested at that point.
so many different avenues.
Yeah, a couple of different things. Yeah, just instead of trying to buy it, there's nothing to really buy. You just want to accumulate your time so that you get to the 5 years. If you come to VRS, then the clock starts ticking and you add that additional 2 years. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Hey, good morning, sir. Don't worry about that.
My question is, so I think I got a couple months in plan one and I have almost 2 years in plan two. Right, so with this buying back, and I've been with the C3. So if I buy this time, will that make me automatically vested in cars if I make the switch? And if so, does that mean I can retire a couple more years early?
Well, I don't want you to get buying time confused with if you decide to come to VRS, your time starts to accumulate. Okay. So if you've already got VRS time and you come to VRS, we're going to take that time and just keep it moving.
I
Okay.
took some money out when I left.
Okay.
I
So
think I checked and I think I have something, it might be in the DB. Is there a DB?
yes, that's VRS is the defined benefit. That's the DB.
All right, and there's another one. Is there a DE?
There's a DC, which is defined contribution.
Okay, so I have some left in one of those.
Okay.
So I don't know which one it was.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious when I like to buy that so I can, if I come over to VRS, so hopefully I can be vested like right about when I get here,
Mhm.
when it happens. So does that, if I do that, can I retire that 2 years early? Will it help me retire 2 years early or make it, I guess it'd make more money for me, of course. I just want to know if I can retire 2 years early or does it add more time? So I just have like a bigger amount.
Yeah. So, I mean, it gets you to the number of years. It adds to your service, but you got to remember you got to reach age and service to get a full retirement. But it does help, you know. That's refunded service. So what you're doing is you're buying back that time. You can use the money you have in your DC account to buy it.
Oh, that's what I wanted to know. Okay,
Mhm.
that would help me out a lot.
Yeah, you can do it that way
Okay.
and then purchase it back and have it added to your record. That just means as opposed to 5 years of service with VRS, now you got 7 or however much
It
you
would
buy
be
back.
because it'd be 3 and the 2, so
Uh-huh.
it'd be 5.
Be 5 years total.
Okay, so who would I talk to? VRS?
Once you come over to us,
Who would I
you'll
talk
talk to us.
Was it, I saw up there, was it VRS at VA Retire or something? Do I talk to VRS people?
Yeah, once you transition over to do it, you want to get into the program, which will probably be January 1.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to someone
Mhm.
before that, so I
Yeah.
just want to make sure, who do I have to talk to before that, or is that not set up yet?
Yeah, it's,
Just not set up yet?
We're working on that. So we're also bringing on some separate kind of third-party counselors to meet with employees and do retirement coaching. So stay tuned for that. You might want to email that transition email group. And so we have your name so that when that is available, we can let you know.
Okay, is
Okay.
that those pamphlets that I see on the corners?
Yes, it's on the very bottom of the pamphlet on the
Okay.
on the front cover.
All right,
Okay.
thank you.
My question is on, thank you. My question is on the calculation of the 3-year highest salary period. If you are receiving acting pay, but you're not in that permanent position, does that count towards your salary? Is it considered salary or is it, excuse me, or is it considered bonus?
that you're receiving active pay?
Acting.
Oh,
So I'm in an interim
oh, okay.
position,
You're in Richmond.
right?
Okay.
But it's salary. It's just,
Are you full-time or?
yes.
Okay. So you got the salary, but if you come over to VRS, then, you start to accumulate your time. Do you have any previous VRS service?
Yeah, I'm in plan one.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So if you come over to VRS, the Richmond program is going to stay where it is. Okay.
Right. But my question is
We're going to look at the highest 3 years of
but are you looking at total compensation or are you looking at just the base salary?
base salary.
Base
Mhm.
salary. So acting or an interim assignment would not be would not be the number that they use.
Would not be counting yet. I think we need to do some research on that question. It's a good question. So we'll look into that for you and get back to you.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
All right, thanks. We do have some virtual questions, so let's go over to that.
Okay, we've got a few people that can't quite unmute, so I'll ask for them. First question is, if we elect to transition to VRS, will we receive our saved money from Mission Square back?
Well, Mission Square is your defined contribution supplemental program. So that's totally separate from your defined benefit or our program.
I'll have Kia help with this question. So Mission Square handles the city's, the RS defined contribution plan, the 401A, but also the 457. So I'm just going to let Kia respond.
So if you're in the 401A defined contribution plan now and you transition to VRS, your benefits with Mission Square will stay until you separate city service. So it will stay right there. If you're contributing to the 457 deferred comp, you can continue to contribute even if you transition to VRS. Just if you are in the 401A right now and you're vested, your no more contributions go into that account. It freezes. And then once you separate from city service altogether, even when you transition, you'll be able to get those funds once you separate from city service.
Next question from somebody who's having some difficulties is, I have 18 years in a VRS Plan 1 and 3 years in RRS. Can we use my military time to purchase the 3-year gap between VRS and RRS? Does the military time only count for active military service, or does inactive count as well?
It's the military service purchase is really for military active duty service, which we'll get a DD 214, which you know that's your report of your time, and that's for your active military service. That can be added to VRS. That's our criteria. I don't think that's something you do under the Richmond system at all. It's purchase time. No.
All right, maybe fourth time's a charm. Evan, can you unmute yourself and ask your question? Evan, if you want to type your question in the chat, I'll read that for you. So let's move on to our next person. I think it is Yvette who's using Eric's computer. Yvette, you can go ahead and ask your question.
Hello?
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Yes, I was vested with VRS for 19 and a half years with another job, and I did do a withdrawal from VRS. Now I've been here with the city since May, and I was wondering, just by chance, since my time that I already vested in VRS, would that pick back up? Because I actually plan to get back with VRS in January. So I wanted to know, how does that work?
Well, what you've done is it basically means that you've taken a refund. So when you take the refund, then you're out of the VRS system and you start all over again. Now you do have the option of buying that service back. It's called refunded service purchase, but that just means that you return the amount that you basically were given at that time, and then there's some an interest charge that goes on top of that. Okay. So you can add it if you do decide to come in to the VRS system. Otherwise, if you do come into the VRS system, then more likely you would be under the hybrid program.
Okay. And how, okay. Okay, that's fine. Thank you.
Yep.
Shalice Beckwith, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Yes, I did put the question in the chat, but I have 3 years of VRS service. I'm considered a hybrid, and then 5 years of RRS service. So, do I have to do additional years to be vested in VRS if I transition to VRS?
Yes, if you come over to VRS, we'll take those years that you had service. You were in hybrid, I think you indicated previously. So when you come into VRS, you'll be in the hybrid program at that point, and just start to continue to accumulate time at that with that venture. You'd fall under the criteria for the hybrid program eligibility for retirement at that point.
Okay, and so the Richmond time that I have now, the 5 years, that money, I think earlier she said it freezes. Does that money continue to grow, or does it just sit somewhere separately?
It both. So it'll sit separately. It'll stay where it is, but it will continue to do the, investment earnings over time. You're just not contributing actively to it anymore. But we would encourage you to attend a hybrid plan session as well. If you took a refund and you find out that that's the plan you would be going into, to learn more about your options in the hybrid plan.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be going back to plan 2. My 457, that'll stay in place like y'all said, and the 401 will stay in place. I have prior VRS service, plan 2, and I'm in the 401 plan with the city, so that will stay in place. I'll leave that if I transfer over to VRS. The 457 would do the same. That'll be frozen and stay, right? So
you can continue.
Right. So the question is about the city's 457 plan and what happens to that. So that will remain. You can still contribute to that. So that one, unless you change something with RRS, you can still be putting money into the 457. It's just that the 401A plan, the DC plan, that is what will stop. The contributions to that will stop.
Right. Question is, freeze the 457 and don't contribute to it. If I freeze the 457 and don't contribute to it anymore, VRS has a 457 that they match, correct?
In the hybrid.
Oh, only in the hybrid.
Do.
Okay. Okay, because if they was going to match, I would want to contribute to the 457 and the VRS versus contributing to the city one because the city don't match.
Well, you have a 457 with Mission Square currently, all right? So that one you can continue to make contributions to, the current Richmond program, okay? Now, if you come into our plan, would you be hybrid? Is that what you were saying?
Be plan B.
Okay.
Plan 2.
Plan 2, okay. And that's your pension, that's your defined benefit program. But you will be able to continue to contribute to the 457, not the 457 that we have that.
It just wouldn't be a match.
Right. And so the matching 457 in VRS is for the hybrid plan. So that's not the plan that you would be in. Mm-hmm.
Switch if it was going to match.
In regards to purchasing military time, will your 457 plans with the city, would you be able to use that plan to purchase back your time?
You can use retirement funds to purchase that time with Mission Square. A lot of times you can do that with your 457. You're actually transferring that money over. So you could use it. Yeah. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Nah, it's okay.
All right, so I got one. I believe you may be able to answer for me. ORP, you said that we can continue to contribute into the 457 for the RSS. Is that correct? What about the Roth IRA? Awesome. Then my question now is, if I switch over to VRS, and I guess it's 5% is taken out automatically, and we can have 4% added to that.
That's under the hybrid program.
Hybrid program. So if I switch, is that what I'm going to be in?
Did you have any previous VRS service at all?
I did.
Okay. So we're going to get you into the previous VRS service program. If you were based on that criteria, whether you had,
From 2018 to 2020.
okay, 2018 to 2020, you're hybrid.
So that's it. Okay, so that I can make that 9%
Right.
contribution.
So you would be able to make
Okay.
additional contributions to your program under that hybrid program.
Okay, and I think I had like a couple of months in 2009, maybe 3 months.
Mhm.
So is that plan one?
Well,
Because I think they were doing something similar, I think, at that time.
yeah, we're going to have to look at yours because if
I know,
you
I'm a mess.
No, you because if you started in 2009, and did you take a break in service?
I took a break in service
Left your
until
money there?
2018. I withdrew. I only got like $200 out of it. And then I started in 2018 for another county. And that's what I think I was doing, the 9%.
Yeah, so if you take any money, take any refunds,
I did from both.
okay? So when you do that, you kind of clean the slate,
So if I join the VRS now, I'll be in the hybrid plan?
the hybrid plan.
So I can do 9%, huh?
Well, you can do additional, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I want.
have a
to do.
Roth
If I go, that's what I would do.
There you go.
Okay, so I'll have that, the 457 from the city and a Roth IRA from the city. I'm not gonna have a paycheck, so I'm putting all the retirement. I might, man.
Quite the stack, sir. All right. All right. Any other questions on the virtual? Okay, we'll move over.
All right, we have a few questions of people that are having some technical issues. So first question is, I worked for the state from 1981 to 2001. What plan would I be in? And then there's a little more information. I have over 5 years with the city, so I can transfer to VRS and my benefits will be based on my current salary with the city.
That is correct. And you would also be in plan one. Yeah, the criteria for plan one, of course, is if you were hired July 1, 2010, and you were vested by January 1, 2013, that's your plan one eligibility. Okay. Anybody that was plan two, then that means that you could have come on July 1, 2010, but you weren't vested, didn't have that 5 years by January 1, 2013, then you default to plan two. Okay. Anything after that 2014 and beyond, you're hybrid. Okay.
Just to let you know, in the transition pamphlet on page 15, it gives you the eligibility criteria with the dates there on plan 1 and 2 for VRS. And then the hybrid plan, I believe, is on page 14.
All right, another online question. How long to vest in VRS? Does city time count? If I change to VRS and retire before vesting, what happens to my contribution?
If you retire before vesting, then we send you a check for the balance in your in your member contribution account. Okay. If you make the 5 years, then we'll look at your age and service and make sure that we get you a full retirement at that point, if you're eligible.
Sherelle Barber, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
You sure can.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. So I used to work with the school system and I was there for 20 years. I left in 2020 to come to the city of Richmond. When I left, I pulled my money out of VRS, but I moved it to Net Fidelity. Would those years count, or because I pulled my money, that means I would be starting over?
Yes, if you took a refund, took the funds out, then you start over in the VRS system if you come over.
Okay.
Mhm. Yep.
All right. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Stephen Bergen, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Gotcha.
Okay, thanks. So I have, let's see, I have 7 years in Plan A and 20 in the defined with the city. Will the two be combined? So, for example, I combine them with VRS when I transition over, if I transition over, and will that give me 27 years with VRS?
Your time that you had with the VRS system counts if you come over to VRS, but we don't combine the time with RRS. You would just pick up under the VRS system with the time and service that you have, and you'd have a separate account. I mean, two separate accounts. You've got the RRS account that's accumulating for you, and if you come to VRS, you also have the contributions going into your VRS account.
Okay, so does that, if I go over to VRS, then and start on that plan, will my highest salaries with the city count in that plan?
That's correct. We're going to still look at the highest 3 or 36 months if you're plan 1 and 60 months if you're plan 2, if you fall under that provision.
Okay.
Okay.
That's it for me. Thanks.
All right. Thank you.
All right, I asked the question earlier, but the person who asked had to step out, and so I'm going to ask it one more time so they can hear the response. How long to vest? And then this person is vested in RRS. Does the time count? If they retire before vesting, what happens to their contribution?
Yeah, if you are vested, okay, and if you're vested to the VRS benefit, then we'll pay you based on the plan that you're in.
And how long is it to vest?
5 years. 5 years is your vesting period for VRS programs.
And if you retire before you are vested, what happens to the contribution?
If you retire before you're vested, then if you leave, we will send you a check for the balance that's in your member contribution account.
Todd, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and ask your question.
Okay, thank you. It's a little bit complicated with me. I worked for the city from 97 to 2003, which is 6 years. I did a second tour from 2012 to 19, which is another 7 years. And now I'm back from 2022. And also, I did work for the state, but I took the buyout and I realized I can buy some of that time back now. So does that mean plan 1 for me or a hybrid? What do I do with, I got 12, well, 6 plus, I think they said they gave me a total of 14 years of credit with the city because I looked into this last month.
Yeah, that's all city time. And if you took a refund from VRS, then that just means that you start all over. So you'll start in the hybrid program with VRS when you come over, if you decide to come with VRS.
Okay. Yeah. And the buyout was with the state though.
Okay. So if you had state time previously that we
Yes.
refunded and we refunded that time to you, you can buy that time.
That's what I want to do. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So you're saying that my choice basically is it's the hybrid plan and not plan 1?
Right. You would come in under, because you took the refund, you'd come in under the hybrid program, but you could add that state time to that hybrid program record and give you, based on that time, add it to your record, and that will allow you to either retire early or accumulate additional creditable service time.
Also, I did have 1 year within Henrico County.
We could use that too. You can buy that too.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Sure.
Aye.
All right.
All right, next question. Somebody's asked, I have 18 years with VRS and I've been receiving a pension for 5 years. I've been working for the city for 5.5 years. If I go back to VRS, will I be able to port 48 months? And will I be able to pay for it with my 401 or 457?
Yeah, I mean, are you deporting service from VRS to RS?
It's an in the chat question. So Leroy Rice, if you are able to raise your hand, then I can unmute you and you can ask your specific question.
Right. So I think the question is related to can the RRS service go into VRS? And the answer to that is no. It sounds like you're vested in RRS, and so the answer to that is no.
Leroy Rice, you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and if that answered your question or if you have a follow-up.
Hello, I'm back on. Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, I'd heard from one of the other sessions that you could use that I could port 48 months and I could use the 401A or 457, but that must have been incorrect.
Right.
Same.
Yeah. Yes. When we talk port, that's a different term for porting service, but you could purchase service, but that not RRS service at all.
Okay.
Yeah, you
So
can't
it would
purchase that service.
be like military or
Yeah, if it's had to be
past
military or
VRS
federal
service.
or part-time service, you can purchase that kind of service.
Okay.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
I got another question that kind of goes back in the past. I worked for Hanover many years ago and cashed out. And then I went back to Henrico 15 years or so ago. And when I purchased my 9.5 years of prior service, I was charged 18,000. It was based on my new salary at Henrico. Has that rule been changed, or can I go back because I only cashed out 4,500, but it cost me 18,000 to get back in.
Yeah, and that's probably because you had accumulated interest on top of what you got as a check. So right now that interest rate is right at about 6%, a little over 6% that you have to, excuse me, that you have to add on top of what you received. And that may have been what that accumulated to be, that 18,000. So that just helps us fund the account, keeps everybody on level playing field, and helps to keep the account funded. We want to make sure everybody's able to receive their benefit.
Sure. And that was after tax money. And now in my pension, like a very small percentage is part of that 18,000 that I get back, and I get a separate 1099 for that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, any other questions? Okay, well, it looks like we have concluded this. Oh, you do. You have a question. Yes, come on up. We're not done yet.
Question is, you were previous VRS. Just trying to basically find out if you decide to take this VRS, are you able to go into the hybrid plan, or do you have to actually accept what you previously had if you have not taken anything out of it?
So if you haven't taken anything out of it, it's pretty much to your advantage to go back into that plan you had before, as opposed to going into the hybrid program. Yeah. So whatever that defaults to, I would say, yeah, let's go with that.
That's just something.
Well, if you haven't taken the money in a refund, we're going to have you go into that plan so that you can start to accumulate time. The option there is, I think, from a positive standpoint, of a guaranteed benefit versus the hybrid program. Okay. Not to go too deep into it. Any other questions?
Thank you. All right.
I would just say if somebody wants to know which plan would they be in, how best do you think that they should they contact RRS, should they contact VRS? What would you advise them to do?
Great question. This is very applicable to this particular session if you have prior VRS service. So there was a slide up on the screen that had the contact information for VRS. You should call the customer service center. It's the 1-888-827-3847 number. And you can there's a webpage, varetire.org/contact. So please call that number and they can help you determine what prior plan you were in and what you would go into under this transition. If you happen to, find out today that you're in a different plan, if you're going into the hybrid, for example, we do have additional information sessions on the hybrid plan. So we'd encourage you to sign up and attend one of those to learn more. And yeah, stay tuned for more information related to election forms as well as the one-on-one retirement kind of coaching for employees. So that will be coming soon. And if you have additional questions, please contact our email box, vrstransitionquestions@rva.gov. All right, and I think that concludes our session for the day. Thank you.